Hey everybody, we're just about to start making web pages, and to do that we need to get a few tools. There's going to be a lot of different tools that we use over the course of this unit, but really the most important is our text editor. HTML is a text-based language. You can actually use good old-fashioned Notepad in Windows or on your Mac, but there's a program I actually really like called Notepad++. And it's installed on all the school computers, but I wanted to make sure you had a way to get it installed at home. So if you just Google for Notepad++, the first result that should show up right here is Notepad++ Home. So if you click on that, you'll come to this nice page. It's a really cool program. As you notice, it says Notepad++ is free, as in free speech, and also as in free beer, which you're not old enough to drink. So come over here to the left side of the screen and we can choose download. And there's actually a couple of different choices for download. For us, we want to download the, hit the big green button, as it were, to download the installer, and it'll download right here into your folder. So let's run that. Depending on your computer at home, it might ask for this little menu. You might need your parents to give you administrator access or something like that, but they should feel okay doing that. I want English, sounds pretty good, and then we're going to go through the little setup menu. Agree to the license agreement, pick where you want to save it. I like to save it to the default value. Now here you have a few choices. One of the choices that you might want to check, it's not essential, but this little button here that says as default HTML viewer. Later on we'll be looking at a lot of websites, and a lot of times we want to look, hey, how'd they make them? And so this actually says, hey, I want to use this new piece of software we downloaded to do that. So I click yes on that, and then I click next. Now, a lot of these choices don't make that big of a difference. You might want to create a shortcut on the desktop. It seems like a reasonable thing to do. I'm not going to, because I like my desktop clean. But and then the other one is this one right up here. It says don't use app data. Now, one of the cool things about this program is you can actually install it directly to a flash drive. So it's called a portable install. What's really cool about that is if you have your little flash drive and you want to go work on it in the library or something like that, you can just load it on your flash drive and you don't have to install it on the school computer. It'll just run from your flash drive. So if you're doing that, click that box. Otherwise, leave them all blank and then hit install. It'll run for a second, and then let's run Notepad++. We see it popped up down here, and it popped up with a few, let me make it a little bit bigger here. It popped up with a little, read me or whatever like that. So ignoring all that, let's go and make a new file. So if you notice, it has a little toolbar, just like what you're used to in a lot of editing programs. Okay, so this one up in the upper left corner says new, so let's click on that. Let's say I don't want to have this change log sitting in here anymore. I can actually right click on it, and you can say, hey, close it. Okay, which is very nice. And then here we go. We have a beautiful little text editor. So you notice a couple of nice things about this. One is it's really simple. Down here at the bottom of the screen, you can see that it tells you how many lines you have. It tells you what row you're on. A few things. It says it's a normal text file. So let's get and start with a little bit of really simple HTML. We're going to talk about the HTML skeleton. This is something that basically every HTML page has to have. We're going to talk about this in a lot more detail, but I'm going to introduce you to a couple of simple tags that are always going to be there. So the first tag is actually the HTML tag. A tag just means we put stuff in these pointed brackets, greater than, less than signs, and we're going to wrap it up. And every tag has an opening and a closing tag that looks like this. Okay, and then you kind of sandwich stuff in between them to kind of trap them in there, and we'll talk more about that in class as we move forward. So we always kind of have an HTML, And then we, kind of just like a person, we have a head, which is where like a lot of our information is going to go. So it's kind of the brain of the page, right? And then we're going to have the body of the page, which is where really all of our, where all our real information is going to be. And this is like where the meat of your web page is. This is the thing that you're used to seeing when you go and visit a web page. So there's other things that can go up in here inside the head. For instance, there's something called a title. And the title is, it's not like the biggest, like how you do a title page on a paper. It's actually talking to, see how here at the top of the screen it says new to Notepad++. That's actually the title tag. That's what we're going to change. So you might notice this looks a little weird. You're like, why am I using this fancy program? It's not doing anything for me. Well, it's because it doesn't actually know that we're in HTML right now. So right now it looks like a bunch of tags, and we're not very excited by what we're seeing. So what we're going to go up here is we're going to go into language. Okay, and as we drop that down, go down to the H's, and you can see, hey, there's HTML. You'll actually notice there's a bunch of language. For some of you guys that are interested in iPad apps, Objective-C is what they program that in. Up here there's C# and C++, which are programming languages that we talk about in some of our other classes, and there's CSS, which we'll get to in a little bit. That's what's going to help us do the style on our web pages to make them look really cool. So for right now, we're going to say, hey, this file we want to look at as an HTML file. Hey, and look what happened all of a sudden. I got these things started turning blue, and I got these little minus signs that I can click, and it changes a few things. And and we'll see a few other neat little things that happen. So let's actually get something to show up on the screen so I can show you some of the other features of Notepad++ that you guys will use really quite a lot. So in the head, I'm just going to do something that I like to do, which is to indent things to make them look nice. So a lot of times we indent to say, hey, look, this is inside of this. Okay, so the title is inside the head. Okay, the body is kind of by itself. Okay, and the HTML is on the outside. Some people would even go so far as to indent everything like this, but I think this is just fine for right now. So I'm just going to put something in the body where I just say, hello, this is my first page. Okay, and then in the title, I'm going to say, Mr. Bartlo's HTML lesson. Okay, so suppose I wanted to actually take a look and see how this looked in say, a web browser like Chrome. So the first thing I want to do is I'm actually going to save it, because you got to save it. So notice here we have the classic save icon, little disk. It's kind of funny, we don't have those 3.5 floppy disks anymore, but we use them for our icons. And I'm just going to save it. For right now, you can save it in your My Documents folder or your network storage folder. I am just going to save it on the desktop because this is my computer, and I'm just going to call this first page. Now notice here we have a choice to save it as a type. I'm just going to save it as an HTML file. I'm not going to type anything after it, and I'm going to click on Save. So now it knows it's an HTML file. So when I run it, I'm going to say, hey, I want to launch it in Chrome. So I have this choice here. So I can launch it in Firefox, Internet Explorer, Chrome, or Safari. Basically just any browser that you feel you have. We have most of these installed at the school, except for Safari. So, okay, so I clicked that Launch in Chrome button, and I have a very, a little bit boring, but it says, look, it says here, it says hello is my first page. I'm very excited about that. And if you actually notice up here in my tab, it says Mr. Bartlow's HTML lesson. So I got the two things that I really wanted to do. So, real simple first introduction to this, and we'll get to look at a few more things later on.